Thanks, Eric, and thanks for not only the introduction, but your continued support for the Headwater story. It's been a long road, but yeah, happy to be here. So yeah, obviously I will be making some forward-looking statements. Please take the appropriate caution when listening to what I have to say through this presentation. So the main focus here will be to talk about this major transaction that we've announced over the last couple of weeks here and the drill plan that'll result from that moving forward. Yeah, this is a strategic partnership with Newcrest Mining where they took 9.9% in the company and also entered into earn-in agreements on 4 of our projects to rapidly advance these. But for those of you who may not be as familiar with this story, I'll back up a little bit and go through the background, a little bit about the team and the business model that got us here. So we are a high-grade epithermal vein focused exploration company in the western U.S. That's all we do. When you think of Headwater, think of high-grade vein exploration. We're a technically driven team, geologists. I'm a geologist. I'm the CEO. Alistair Waddell, the chairman's a geologist. I first met Alistair when we worked together at Kinross Gold, and it was Alistair ran global greenfields exploration at Kinross, so we know a little bit about how major mining companies do greenfields exploration, which comes in handy. And I left Kinross to start Headwater about, I guess, 3.5 years ago now. We're now a publicly traded company on the CSE with 55 million shares out, still 37% insider control, pretty tight share structure, and now Newcrest with a strategic 9.9% interest. We have a large portfolio of projects in the western U.S., 10 projects at present in total, and 4 of those are under earn-in agreements with Newcrest presently. That leaves still a large portfolio of projects for self-funded exploration, and that is the business model, has been the business model of Headwater from the beginning. We call it a hybrid business model between a traditional junior explorer and a sort of project generator model, whereby we look to identify, well, first acquire a large portfolio of projects, then identify within that portfolio those projects that are the most capital intensive and highest risk and look for quality funding partners to advance those while keeping the ones that are lowest risk and lowest cost to advance ourselves. And I think that model really is the best blend for our shareholders to give them the maximum upside with the minimum risks from the corporate dilution side and the exploration risk side. So this has been the vision from the beginning, and we're now continuing to execute that with this deal. We're listed on the CSE under the symbol HWG and on the OTC HWAUF. Okay, so this is just a snapshot of the last 12 months since listing. This will give you an idea of what we can execute, the level at which my team can execute on the ground and at the corporate level, I think, and maybe a vision of what to expect out of our group moving forward here. So we listed in June of 2021. Just before that, we raised $4 million in the capital markets. Concurrently with that listing, we kind of finalized the acquisition of a couple of projects, rounding out our portfolio to 10 projects in the western U.S. We hit the ground running right away, drilled 4 projects right in sequence, bam, 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 bam. We're fortunate and had great successes with discoveries at 2 of them. Our Katy project, where we hit in our first hole on the project, 14.54 meters at 4.86 grams with a higher grade core, which is ultimately what we're looking for, of 1.95 meters at 23.6 grams per ton. So this is a very significant drill hole in our view, and this thing is wide open in all directions and demands follow-up for sure. This is importantly one that we kept 100% Headwater. These are pretty shallow drill depths to this target, and there's fairly obvious offsets that we need to do before we can really know what the potential is at Katy. Spring Peak in western Nevada, we also made a significant discovery. Again, our first hole underneath a barren sinter resulted in 38 meters of a gram. Those sorts of numbers in Nevada are definitely something that's significant, and that was one that really got Newcrest's attention. So this was all happening in the context of a junior market that was in steady decline. We recognized very early that it was going to be difficult at best to finance the exploration through traditional equity financings that was required to advance all of these successful projects, and began looking for alternative, less dilutive funding sources, and we found a great option, I think, with Newcrest here. So I'll get into the deal there. The headline on this deal really is that Newcrest took a 9.9% interest in the company, and concurrently with that entered into 4 earn-in agreements whereby they can get up to 75% interest individually in 4 projects by completing pre-feasibility studies, issuing a royalty to us on top of our retained 25% interest, and spending a lot of money in exploration in the ground. In aggregate, that's $145 million US across the 4 projects to get to that level on all 4 projects. Now, a very important part of this as well is that there's $8.5 million US in guaranteed firm spending commitments over the next couple of years. So we're going to be very active in this next period, and we are managing the exploration, collecting a management fee. Apparently Newcrest has enough confidence in our management team and our ability to execute. It appears they want us to keep doing what got us to this point here. So that's what we're going to do, and we're hitting the ground running. Just to walk through the details a little bit more, and you can look at our news release from August 16th, I believe, to see the nitty-gritty here. But it's a staged earn-in type of deal. So with Spring Peak as an example, they have a $5 million guaranteed minimum commitment, $15 million over 3 years to get 51%, at which point they can elect to continue and spend an additional $40 million to get to 65%. And so that at that point, where they have 65%, they have to then complete a pre-feasibility study for the remaining 10%. And once that's done, we also get a royalty over the top of all that. The rest of the projects are structured very similarly. The dollar amounts vary, the minimum commitments vary, but that's the gist of all of these deals. So Spring Peak is the one with the biggest spending commitment up front. And so I'll kind of focus on that here, and that's where we're getting started right away. In the news release from yesterday, I alluded to the fact that we got rigs, multi-rig program totaling, say, something like 4,000, 5,000 meters to kick off basically immediately. We've got a rig rolling out there within the next week or so. We're going to add rigs through the fall and hopefully, see what we can get done before the season closes sometime in December, probably in this area. But we'll be very aggressive out here, testing these vein targets that we have in this famous Nevada high-grade district, the Aurora Mining District, which is just south of, or our project is just south of Hecla's Aurora Mine Complex in the northern part of the district. And what we're going to be doing is drilling multiple of these vein targets in addition to offsetting our success, that 38 meters of a gram down dip, and really be able to test this at a scale that would be difficult, to say the least, for us to do on our own. The other project that'll see a lot of activity this year is Midas North. This is, again, in a famous Nevada high-grade district, the Midas District. Very large alteration footprint in the northern part of the district. And what this deal does, what this deal allows us to, a $2 million guaranteed minimum commitment from Newcrest, it allows us to work with this high-level alteration footprint, which is a very good thing, but also a challenging thing in the sense that it's multiple kilometers in scale, and it can be difficult to prioritize drill targets in these things. So what we're able to do now is throw a approximately $1 million US pre-drilling budget at this and do all of the geophysics, geochemistry mapping that's really required to get the best bang for our buck out of our maiden drill program, which will probably kick off early next year as all this data comes together and the targets emerge. But this is all underway right now, and preliminary results are looking good, so stay tuned for news on our targets and our continued success out here. Another project that'll be drilled is Mahogany. This is along the Oregon-Idaho border. This is in an emerging belt that we think is a very interesting epithermal belt in Idaho and far eastern Oregon. It's actually encouraging to us that Newcrest is also willing to make an entry into this emerging district too. And so this is following up on a program that we drilled last year that was actually a reasonably successful program. We haven't marketed it too much, largely due to the successes at our other projects. But we did hit 12 meters of a half a gram in our first drill program up there, including a higher grade 9.4 grams over 0.7 meters. So we had some success, and now we'll be following up on that in a much bigger way with a approximately 2,000 meter diamond drill program. The fourth and last program under the Newcrest earn-ins will be Agate Point. This is a very early stage project that will be drilling a maiden drill program again on underneath a high level alteration cap. These are the things that I get really excited about, where you can drill the first holes down to the projected bonanza horizon in a untested epithermal alteration cap and see what's down there. There's only one way to do that, and that's to get a drill bit down there. So we'll be drilling a couple thousand meters RC, got a rig scheduled for mid-October if everything works out. So I'm out of time, but I want to just touch really quickly on the Katy project. I get a lot of questions what we're doing up here, and there's more to come on this for sure. But while this Newcrest deal was coming together, we were very active in low-cost surface exploration, making an effort to put together scale and refine the target at Katy to make sure that our follow-up programs were successful. All I'll say is stay tuned for that. We did a bunch of soils, a bunch of geophysics, and some geologic mapping that has worked out really well for us. So there'll be some news on that hopefully shortly. Investment highlights, just to summarize here, I think we're a quality team working in a great jurisdiction with a solid business model that's proven itself already, I think. We've got a great partner with Newcrest, and the thing is, I get asked a lot about, so we went up 70% on the news with Newcrest, which is fantastic, and I got a lot of calls. Okay, well, is it over? Is there any room left? And I say, well, I can't answer that question, but the one thing to think about, I think, to put all this in perspective, is now Headwater at a $12-13 million market cap. We have a couple $1 million in the bank. We have 11 million Canadian in firm commitments and expenditures from Newcrest over the next couple of years for an implied enterprise value of about zero. And we will be very active. We'll be perhaps one of the most active junior explorer in Nevada over the coming time with all this funding and with all these programs. And that's not even to talk about our 100% owned self-funded activities that will be taking place concurrently with that. So I'll leave you with that. We'll have a booth here. Please stop by, learn more about the story, and thank you very much.